So my name is Renny Gleeson. I head up Global Interactive Strategies for Wieden+Kennedy Advertising. Came here out of an interest in OpenID and all of the other data portability issues, social graph stuff going on. My job is to, got a couple different pieces to it, but fundamentally it's helping clients sort of landscape out what's happening in this space and how to grapple with what's going on in a constructive way that helps them get their message out without sort of putting their logo on the wrecking ball and swinging it at the side of the fragile social constructions that are being built. So in terms of what I was hoping to get out of here, I'm hoping to get a much better understanding of the trends and actual technological infrastructural changes that are happening, as well as the implications that those have, but also figuring out a way to bridge between the technical aspects of the specific applications to the cultural implications and the storytelling and engagement and all that good stuff that sort of comes out of this and can occasionally get lost in some of the dialogue. So it's bridging those. So in the federated networks thing, what got me was they were talking about how you can use XMPP basically to import sort of publicly available data, and then the conversation was, well, can you get rich data from other networks? And it got me basically wondering whether or not, in fact, decontextualized personal social information that originated from a context, a very specific context, does that effectively, are you, what is it, you can, Schrodinger's cat, you know, is it, can you know it, can you know its location, does it still have the value when you pull it out of the context and put it into a new scenario? And I had a really interesting follow-up actually with Blaine, and we were talking about how fundamentally human beings at their root have sort of multimodal interpretations of data in social situations. And I was telling him the story of a friend who had been going on and on about how the term friend had been devalued by the online space, and that friend didn't mean what it used to mean. And I said, well, actually, it didn't used to mean much anyway, because there's 1,000 different nuances of friend. There's friend, there's my friend, there's my friend, there's acquaintance, and you sort of have this long graph, and we are sort of able to dynamically jump between modes of friendship on the fly in the real world. And the real conversation about why has friend been devalued is actually a misrepresentation. All it is an acknowledgement that we haven't yet figured out how to sort of do that same dynamic multimodal interpretation online as efficiently as we do it offline with the full range of characters. But he was just saying to me that it was interesting, pulling the context out is not just dumping it into a decontextualized environment, but that you always have the opportunity to recontextualize it in whatever way you want to. Made me rethink how we understand people's social interactions, because the fundamental question becomes that data portability, you sometimes compartmentalize it to a box of personal information which you choose to parse out and how that information gets shared, but his basic gist was there's this data swarm that's following you, and before you even press a button, people already can draw parallels and things about who you are and what you do, and that's really interesting for us. Again, from the brand standpoint, you know, we talk a lot about trying to go out and find interactive scenarios where we can talk to influencers, right? Sort of, in a sense, in interactive advertising and communication, we're sort of at the point of the radio, you know, when TV first started and people were reading radio plays into the camera. So that's about where we are in a lot of interactive communication. But that as that data becomes more rich and interpretable, the question of whether you control it or somebody else controls it and how they use that directly impacts the kind of engagement scenarios that you can start to build.